There we go. It only records if I press record. Otherwise, there's no recording. Okay, we finished last week the Megillat Esther. We spent a year, minus the times that we didn't have class and special one-offs. And we finished the Megillah just in time for Purim, which will be in about a month, actually exactly a month, because it's going to be the 15th of Shvat and Purim is the 14th of Adar. So 1 month away. And I decided, since I see that people like it, to do something special about Tu B'Shvat. And that's our break in between Megillat Esther, anti-Semitism, and the rest of this year, meaning the rest of this academic year until June, whenever it is that we finish, I'm going to each week, unless again I do something special, but this is my plan, is to do each week, take one perek of Tehillim, one chapter of Psalms that we are familiar with for one reason or another, and to do tapping into it, looking at it more closely, to, really understanding it so that when we say it the next time, we'll all feel more connected, maybe understand the structure, understand the words can be hard. So the kinds of Tehillim that we'll be going into, where the group here last week requested that we begin with 121, which is the one that we've been saying most often for what's going on in Israel. And the next one could be 130, which is the next level of ones we've been saying for what's going on in Israel. And those are our go-tos whenever we're in Be'et Tzara, anytime that Jews are in a place of sorrow or worry, anxiety, or difficulty, Tzara. So those we'll start with, and then we can decide. We might go to Mizmor LeDavid 23, the one we say at funerals, and Lahavdil on Shabbat after Mizmor LeDavid, for those who know it. So I thought we would learn that one, because again, that's one we say so often. Your staff and your rod, they comfort me. What does that mean, actually? So I'm doing it for me too, because I want to learn about them. And then at some point we'll move into the 7 Psalms of the week. People familiar that every day there's something called Shir Shel Yom, meaning the song of the day. It is what the Levites used to sing in the Beit HaMikdash at the temple. And it's each one of them is a different psalm, P-S-A-L-M, so song and psalm. And I've always wanted to learn about them because I say them every single day. People are familiar with that there's a song of the day, or not so much? Some of you are, some of you are not. Oh, did you say yes or, oh, that was a yes, Lance. Okay. So we'll also learn the different psalms. Maybe we'll find out why they're connected to that day. So all of that is in the future, beginning next week. And I'm excited to learn about that and then learn together with you about each one. And today we're having a special one, what I call my one-offs, about Tu B'Shvat. When is Tu B'Shvat happening?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Tonight.
Thank you. Because in Judaism, a Hebrew date always begins the night before. You can remember that because Shabbat starts the night before. So we know that Jewish dates or Jewish days, and it starts from the beginning of Genesis. Vayhi Erev, Vayhi Boker, and it was evening and it was morning. The secular date starts at 12:01 a.m., but the Jewish date starts from sunset, which shifts. Like now sunset's around 5-ish, but it can go as early as 4 and as late as 7 or 8. So at least in New York. I'm sure in other places, different times. So
what happens when the sun doesn't set?
What?
That is a great topic. That's a great topic for one-off. It's actually easier when the sun doesn't set than when it sets and there's only like 3 hours of nighttime. So when it doesn't set at all, you go according to the nearest place that has a sunset. But I was in London when the sun set at 11:30 p.m. or 12, and we just went to sleep when it was still Shabbat, basically.
Yeah.
And then woke up the next morning and it wasn't Shabbat anymore. But Friday night, we were able to tour London till like 10 o'clock or 9:30.
That's what I mean. My daughter lived in Sweden for 4 years, and it was very difficult. I was always asking what happens when.
I think what's difficult is fast days are difficult. Shabbat, you figure out how to do it. You make early Shabbat, you go to sleep, you have Shabbat day, and then you go to sleep and you wake up Sunday morning. It's not Shabbat anymore. I think that's what you do. So it's like anything else. You make do, you figure it out. But you asked, what if the sun never sets? And in that case, you do it according to the nearest place, I believe, that the sun sets or something like that. That's a topic for a different class, which I think I might do once, because it's, again, very interesting. What halachot, what laws are affected by that when you have, but it's not the topic for today. So I answered briefly. Was that enough, my answer? Did that give you some answer, Estelle?
Well, you gave me an answer, but not really an answer.
Not really an answer? Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to change the topic. It's just.
No, I thought I did. I said you take in Shabbat early and then you go to sleep on Shabbat on Saturday and you wake up in the morning and it's not Shabbat. So I'm not sure what I didn't answer you, but.
Well, it's just that, for instance, you spend Shabbat and then you don't know when it ends.
Yeah, you do know. Okay, so maybe we'll take it off. I thought I was clear, but I guess I wasn't. So there are ways and halachic responses that answer that. When the sun actually sets, then you do know. If the sun never sets, then a time is set halachically and you know exactly when it's over.
So, and somebody sets the time?
Yeah. The halacha always has an answer for that. Yeah, no problem. Do not worry about it. There is an answer for it. Okay, now let's go back to Tu B'Shvat, which, as we said, begins in the afternoon. Now, Tu B'Shvat is an interesting category of holiday. Like, is it a holiday? Is it not a holiday? Does anybody have thoughts about it?
I have a question.
You make it up.
Wait, I had a question. I'm waiting for an answer. You're so Jewish. I asked a question. You asked me a question. What's your question, Judy?
Okay, I wonder if at Mincha today you say Jachanun or not.
Terrific question. Okay, we're going to bracket that for a moment.
Sure.
So, what kind of a day is Tu B'Shvat? What kind of a holiday? What level? Any thoughts?
Nature holiday.
A nature holiday. Okay, thank you. Who said that, by the way?
Tehillah.
Tehillah. So it is.
We do say Tu B'Shvat Higia Chag La'ilano.
Right. Nice. That's the song. But I'm
Right.
asking halachically.
Halachically,
The new year of trees.
Correct. But I'm asking halachically, where does it fit into our spectrum of holidays? Is it like
has to do
Shabbat?
with-
Let's go down the line. Yes, Judith, did you want to say?
It's a minor holiday, I would say.
It's a minor holiday. Okay, so let's go down the line. It's not Shabbat. Everybody agree? It's not. We don't have like prohibitive, like we're not allowed to do malacha, do work. Okay. What about Yom Tov, like Rosh Hashanah, Pesach?
No.
Shabbat? Is it like that? No. You're allowed to ride, use electronics, plow your field, shear your sheep, carry outside of this number. Okay, so it's not Yom Tov. I guess the next one down would be probably either Rosh Chodesh or Chol HaMoed. Is it like Rosh Chodesh or Chol HaMoed?
What's called the something?
You think who said that?
Rosh Chodesh, yeah.
Ila. So you think it's like Rosh Chodesh. So it's interesting. Rosh Chodesh, actually, there's Torah reading.
Right.
There's an extra tefillah called Musaf,
Mhm.
right? Now, it's true that creative work is not prohibited, but I still think that Rosh Chodesh is still going to be a step above what we're doing on Tu B'Shvat. There's no special Torah reading. There's nothing who's talking? Nobody? Okay, I hear talking for some reason. Feedback. So maybe mute. Okay, let's just see if there's more feedback. If there is, then we'll mute you just until you have something to say. So we don't have Torah reading. We don't have Hallel, right? We have Hallel on, everybody know Hallel? Yes, Lance.
Do you have Tachanun?
Wait, I haven't gotten to that. 1 second. We're
Oh,
about to
okay.
get to that.
Sorry
We're about to
about-
get to that. I'm going through, we said it's a kind of holiday, but it isn't clear what it is yet. So it's not like Rosh Chodesh, and it's not like Chol HaMoed, because those days have more holiness associated, because there's Torah reading, there's extra davening, okay? And you say Ya'aleh V'Yavo, right? There's extra pieces to put in. Next one down after that would be probably Chanukah or Purim. Now, Chanukah and Purim are a kind of holiday, correct? What happens on Chanukah and Purim?
On both days, you say Al Hanisim.
You say Al Hanisim, You have special mitzvot,
Oh, I
special
can't.
commandments associated. You have to light the candles. On Purim, you have to eat a sudan, mishloach manot, et cetera, et cetera. You have to hear the Megillah read twice, once in the morning, once at night, or once at night, once in the morning. And you add al hanisim. On Hanukkah, you add Hallel, not on Purim. That's a whole separate topic, but you don't add it on Purim. But you add other things on Purim, and you have Torah reading on both of those days. No musaf, because musaf or musaf is instead of the korban musaf, the sacrifice, the offering that was extra. That's only for biblical ones. But you do have Torah reading. You have mitzvot you have to do. So it's actually lower even than Chanukah or Purim. It is kind of biblical in the sense, we'll get to that in a moment when I get to my source. But does everybody see how I step down slowly through the level of holiness until I got to Tu B'Shvat? And I would say Tu B'Shvat and Tu B'Av. What does Tu mean, by the way? What am I referring to?
15.
Why is it 15?
9 and
The adding the letters and the letters are numbered.
It's so obvious to you, Estelle, but people who don't read Hebrew don't exactly know what you're
9 and 6.
It's something called gematria. Gematria is the numerology. I don't know exactly what it's called in English. Maybe Lance knows. I don't know. But it counts each letter as a number. Like ABC would be 1, 2, 3.
9
So
plus
the word cat, oh no, the word bed would be 2 plus 5 plus 4. You don't do that in English, but you do that in Hebrew. So the numerology of Tet Vav, 9, Tet is 9,
plus 6. Yeah.
is 15. By the way, why don't we just do 10 and 5? Isn't that weird to do 9 and 6?
Because we cannot do Yud and Dalet.
right.
Yud and Hey,
Yud and Hey.
Okay.
because that's God's name. Very good, Tila. Yeah. So we do 9 and 6, which is 15. So the way to pronounce Tet Vav is 2. Kind of cute in English, 2, like too many or tutu. And Tu B'Av and Tu B'Shvat are both there. Now, Lance already referred to what happens on these days. They have some element of holiness or joy or like a scent of being scent, meaning S-C-E-N-T, right? A scent or an aroma of holiday. But there's not much that actually happens halachically on that day. So what are the pieces? We don't say something called tachanun. Who knows what tachanun is? Did anybody ever see people in shul go like this, put their head on their hands to say a part of davening? It would only happen if you go to shul where there's a Sefer Torah. If you were never in, yeah, exactly. I'm a lefty, so I do my left hand. But so it's a part of davening where we actually kind of showing humility to God, and we beseech. Tachanun means beseeching to God. We don't do that on any holiday, even the most minimum, which would be Tu B'Av and Tu B'Shvat. You don't say Tachanun. That's a way to mark that we're in a state of more joy. So we don't add these beseeching kind of, I guess, a little bit mournful, like things aren't good, God, and do better, or asking God for it. We also don't say what's called hespedim. If there's a funeral, chas lo aleinu, then you are not supposed to lengthen any eulogies and make people mournful and cry. What else don't you do? And there's special differences in funerals. I'm trying to think of what else. Now, Judy Stiglitz assumed that we don't say tachanun on Tu B'Shvat. And she said, wait, let me finish. I think let me finish and tell me if this is what you meant. You asked if we don't say tachanun today in the afternoon.
On Erev Tu B'Shvat.
So I'm assuming that means that you understood we don't say tachanun on Tu B'Shvat. Okay, that's what I said, that you assumed we didn't, and you asked, and that's true. Whenever we have a mandated holiday, either rabbinic or biblical, and you don't say tachanun starting the date of the 14th, 15th, whatever it is, we also don't say tachanun in the interim between Mincha and Ma'ariv. Why? Because that's bein hashmashot. That's like in that kind of gray area where it's sort of not today and not tomorrow. It's evening, dusk, whatever that's. So we will not say tachanun, that is correct. There are 2 times a day when we say tachanun. One is at shacharit in the morning, and one is between mincha and marib, or it's really part of mincha. And the custom is to kind of bring in the joy a little bit ahead of time. There's really not much more that we do halachically, according to Jewish law, and yet we still mark it as a special day. Now, any questions just on this part that I've explained till now? If I get anything to clarify before we go into the sources.
Did you say no hesbaden on?
No, right, you're not supposed to
To
lengthen, right, you're not, it's not that you don't say anything, you more celebrate the life there's a genre of saying eulogies in a mournful kind of tone, crying, it's kind of yeshivish a little bit, or Hasidish, where you try to, it's kind of like meant to be a tearjerker. And
Right.
on any holiday day, meaning any day, we don't bury usually on Yom Tov. We certainly don't bury on Shabbat. We might bury on the extra day of Yom Tov outside of Israel, but let's put that aside. Only Yekim, I think, do that. But any of these more minor holidays, when we do bury, we're supposed to limit the sadness that we offer, limit the sadness that we say things at the funeral. That just goes along with no tachanun. Okay? Okay. Any other question on what we've done so far?
Yes.
Yes, Judy.
Yes, I like to say a mincha at the earliest mincha. I looked it up even before our class. I can say mincha at 12:41. Would I say, because it's still not
Do you ever say tachanun?
every day except the days that I don't?
So I thought that tachanun is generally only when there's a Sefer Torah. Am I wrong about that?
Yes.
I don't know. That's a new
So
one.
look in the Siddur. I thought it was, maybe I'm wrong. I think it's only done usually in a minyan, but maybe I'm wrong. I'd have to, and it doesn't matter. Once it was decided not to do it for mincha, no matter what, but I think you should look that up, Judy, okay? Yeah. Felice, what's the question?
I didn't
I
answer.
haven't gotten to one source yet, guys, so yeah. Felice, what? No, you're muted.
One of the bulbs in this room is out in the ceiling.
All right, please, when you get on mute here, let me see if I can.
You could do-
Tila, it's a little noisy by you, so either you or they
You
should.
know, it's.
Yeah, Felice.
No, I was gonna just say, the only difference is that, when you say
I'm sorry, say it again.
the only difference that I know of is that you only say tachanun with your hand on your
That could be,
forehead.
yes.
When you're in a minyan.
Yeah.
If you daven at home or you daven alone,
Okay.
don't do it.
Great. But you know what? Yes,
Yeah. Mhm.
great. And I agree with you.
know.
That could be that you just don't put your head down.
Right.
And Judy, we're going to look it up and we're going to circle back and we'll have the answer next week. But let's now go. So that's important for people who say tachanun, right? Now, people here who don't daven or don't daven in a minyan or don't know about tachanun, don't say it anyway. But for people who do, it's important to know because that's the
Right.
only real halachic ramification of Tu B'Shvat. And yet people know a whole bunch of stuff about Tu B'Shvat. So now let's move to the next part. I just gave you the halachic framework for that, okay? Now tell me what you know about Tu B'Shvat. Give me just one topic or one sentence at a time.
Trees.
Green trees. What about trees?
Seder.
Wait.
Wait.
Estelle, what about trees?
Isn't that when you plant trees?
You plant, she knows about planting trees. Great. Karen.
There's a Seder.
What is
a
that?
Tu B'Shvat. I actually have never attended one, but our shul is having one tonight.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that's being run by our shaliach, and not even sure what takes place at
Well,
a
you'll
Tu
find out.
B'Shvat Seder. Yeah, you're going to tell me. No, I won't be there. So you.
Oh, you won't be there. Okay.
No,
Next person.
so you
So
need
we
to
heard-
tell me.
Right. So Estelle said planting trees. Karen said that there's a Seder, just like a Seder on Pesach, that she knows that there's something called Seder Tu B'Shvat. That's not as ancient as planting trees, I think. Anybody else? Yeah, Felice.
Yeah, you eat fruit usually that's associated with Israel. That was just wrong.
Fruit associated with Israel. Nice. Perfect. Yep. Or other fruit, you can also have apples.
You're right. Mhm.
Okay, anybody else? Yeah, Lance.
There are two tachanins.
Wait,
What
no,
is-
we're not
That's
talking
what
about
we
Tachanun anymore. We're talking about Tu B'Shvat now. Let's bracket Tachanun. It's just not that important for this
Mm,
group, because this group
wow.
is about what
Well,
Tachanun.
it's a downer.
No, but we're talking
You
about
do it
Tu
every
B'Shvat.
day.
I know, but we're talking about Tu B'Shvat. Why do we have to talk
Oh,
about
I'm a
Tachanun
little late, folks, but I did my research.
anymore? I hear you. I just think that we have 30 minutes left and we wanted to talk about Tu B'Shvat. So put your research. I'm so happy for you to put in the chat. It's just
Will
not
do.
relevant to most of the people here who
I
don't.
will do that. I will
And-
do that.
Yeah, please. Okay. So anything else about Tu B'Shvat, not about Tachanun? So Sharon, you should send it to the whole group. not
Oh,
just-
okay. Yeah, okay.
Why not just say it out loud? It's easier than having
Yes,
to.
that's true. Okay, tithing, it has to do with determining tithing of the first fruits, I think, from the
Mhm.
trees.
That in
It's
Hebrew?
called the birthday of the trees, I think.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah.
No,
I
I
think
think the
Estelle-
new year of the trees.
New Year of the
Right.
trees, that's it.
Nice, nice, beautiful.
Yeah.
So Estelle, this minhag, this custom of planting trees comes from a halachic issue associated
Yeah.
with Tu B'Shvat. It didn't just happen that years and thousands of years, people just randomly decided to plant trees on Tu B'Shvat. There's a reason for it. So now so Sharon and Felice alluded to it. Now we're going to read the actual halachic source. No, yes. All right. Okay. I just want to remind people that the Mishnah, this is the Mishnah was codified around the time, a little bit after the Second Temple was destroyed. And remember we said that like Rosh Chodesh is a biblical holiday, even though it's not the same level of holiness as Yom Tov or as Shabbat. But Tu B'Shvat was actually mandated by the rabbis. And we're going to see where they mandated it. We're not going to read everything, but I wanted you to know that there's a Mishnah. The numbers are put in by me. This is an explanation from Sfaria. Because as you can see on the right hand, even if you don't read Hebrew, you can see it's very terse. That's what Mishnah is known for, to be very terse. And then in the English, Sfaria, all the bolded parts are the exact translation of the Hebrew, but they added a lot of explanation. That's the non-bolded part. It just makes it so much easier to learn. So this is exactly what Felice and Sharon were saying, that it's the birthday of the trees or Rosh Hashanah of the trees. So let's understand what that actually means. There are 4 days that are Rosh Hashanah, each for a different purpose. So, you know what, one second. What does Rosh Hashanah actually mean? Let's just go into that as a background. What does that mean, Rosh Hashanah?
The head of the year.
Okay, so the Rosh Hashanah that we know, the head of what year does it signify?
The Jewish year. Well,
The
no,
Jew-
for holidays mainly.
No, actually, both of them are not exactly right. but
Now,
close.
Nisan is what I
Wait,
was getting.
exactly. So hold that thought, Felice. Yep. It's actually the number of years that we believe since the creation of the world. Rosh Hashanah is what we believe are the years since the creation of the world. So it's not exactly only for Jews, right? It is the Jewish New Year as opposed to January 1st. That's true. But remember what we said. We've spoken about this a number of times, that when the months are counted from Rosh Hashanah, that's for everybody. Whereas the months in the Torah, the first month is not Tishrei. What's the first month?
Nisan.
And why is it Nisan?
It's the birth of the Jewish people.
Because it's the birth of the
Birth
Jewish
of Jew-
people. Thank you, Elaine. So when you're counting the number of years since the creation of the world, you would do it from Tishrei. If you're counting the number of years or the order of the months for the Jewish nation, that would be from Nisan. The Chodesh Hazeh Lachem Rosh Chodeshim. This month will be for you the head of all the months. That is Chodesh Nisan, when the Israelites were leaving Egypt. Okay, so we already know, without even doing a lot of like research or anything, we already know there's at least 2 Rosh Hashanahs. Does that make sense to people? Right? One is for the Jewish months, that's Nisan, and one is for Tishrei, is basically the birth of the world. Now, why do we need to know? And this goes back to the tithing or the Trumot and Masrot that Sharon, because this will help us understand the Mishnah. We'll be able to go through it quicker. Why do we need to know? Like, why do we need a birthday? But people have already said the birthday of the trees, actually the birthday of the fruit trees, just so you know, the fruit. But why do we need to know that? Why is it important to have a date? What do we care? What do I care when I planted? I planted it whenever I planted it. Why is that?
I think you hinted at it, that it was already established. That's what people did. And when we codified it into a holiday. No?
That wasn't exactly my question. My question was, why in halakha, Jewish law, do we need to have these dates? What did they give us? We understand that we need the first month, second month, it's from Nisan. Okay. We understand we count from the birthday of the world. That makes sense. Everybody wants to know how many years we've been around or the world has been around. But why do we need to know the birthday of the fruit trees? Like, what do we care?
Well, maybe the best time to plant.
No, oh, that's awesome. You're like way down in my source sheet. You're going to find it. So hold that thought. I love that. That isn't a reason, but that's not the halachic reason that we need it. That's why they picked the 15th of Shvat. But the halachic reason that we need it is, now it's not something we do today regularly, but the fruits of Eretz Yisrael, things that grow in Israel, we need to know when to count first year, second year, third year, fourth year, fifth year, sixth year, and then
for Shemitah.
And then Shemitah, remember, is the 7th year. But we also need to know for giving tithes. Now, we don't do that today. I mean, it's done without a bracha, but let's put that aside. In the time of the temple, the first year you gave 10% truma. Then you also had something called maaser. And each of these cycles, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, Shemitah, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, Shemitah, 1, 2, 3, you had a different amount you had to set aside. How do you know when that year starts? That year starts on the birthday of the fruit trees. That's why it was important. It doesn't really matter if you planted that fruit tree 2 months before Tu B'Shvat. When Tu B'Shvat hits, boom, it's the 2nd year already. Because they had to like align all the fruits. Otherwise, everybody would be on a different time schedule. Everybody getting that? And by the way, I think when I saw The Last Emperor, anybody here see that movie?
It was about China?
Yeah, the Forbidden City. Yeah, it was really interesting. And I think there they do the same thing, that the king has a national birthday when he was a king, when he was an emperor. So even if he was, let's just say it's August 1st, I'm just throwing that out. Even if he was born July 15th, his 2nd year of life would start August 1st. They have like this national time for, and in Jewish law, we also needed a kind of birthday for the kings. And we needed one for tithing of animals. Same thing. You know how in horse racing, there's like thoroughbred and yearlings, and I don't know about that because I'm not familiar, but I know it's true that, you know, when are you allowed to race as a 2-year-old? When are you allowed to race as a 3-year-old? So there's a cutoff date. It's kind of like the cutoff date to go to school. Like, really? Somebody can go to 1st grade, but his friend who was born 1 day later can't go to 1st grade, right? They're only 1 day different. But at some point, you make a cutoff. That's kind of what the Rosh Hashanahs are. Does that make sense to people?
Yes, first time I'm hearing that. Thank you.
All right. Well, I'm so glad now you understand better. Okay. So there are 4 days. On the 1st of Nisan is the new year for kings. That's what I said, meaning even if somebody started ruling in Adar, which is the month before Nisan, the first day of Nisan would be his 2nd year. It is from this date that the years of a king's rule are counted. The 1st Nisan is also the new year for the festivals, meaning in the Torah it says, HaChodesh HaRishon, the 1st month, it's Nisan. Pesach is in the 1st month, and Rosh Hashanah is the 7th month. On the 1st of Elul, that's 1 month before Tishrei, is the new year for animal tithes. Again, all animals born prior to that date belong to the previous tithing, and anybody born after the 1st of Elul is the next one. And then, which one was it? Tishrei. Oh, sorry, that's the 1st of Elul. On the 1st of Tishrei, what's another way to call the 1st of Tishrei? Another word for it?
No,
What?
no, it's not Rosh
Rosh
Hashanah.
Rosh Hashanah.
Rosh Hashanah, yeah. Rosh Hashanah is the 1st of Tishrei, is the new year for counting years, meaning how many years the world is alive. It's also actually for counting Shemitah years, Yovel years. By the way, this is a little confusing, you're going to see, because the trees are alive a certain amount of time, but the fruit have a different birthday. And that goes to when, to what Estelle said, when's the best time to plant trees. So that was really cool, Estelle. I didn't even know that. I learned it when I was preparing the source sheet. The first 3 years that a tree has been planted, its fruit is forbidden, has nothing to do with Trumot and Masrot. It's called Orla. I don't want to get into it now, but it is a halacha in Israel. And it's for tithing vegetables, as vegetables prior to the 1st of Tishrei cannot be tithed with whatever. And in any case, that's the cutoff date. And the 1st of Shvat is the new year for fruit trees. I added fruit trees. The fruit of a tree that was formed prior to the 1st of Shvat belongs to the previous Trumot and Masrot and cannot be tied, meaning you can't bundle together 10% of the before the 1st of Shvat and the 2nd of Shvat. Like you can't bundle them together. They belong to different amounts. You have to put those in a basket and say 10%. And then after that, they're formed in a separate basket. Wait a minute. The 1st of Shvat, I thought we said Tu B'Shvat.
Yeah.
That is according to Beit Shammai. Beit Hillel says the new year for trees is on the 15th of Shvat. Now, when we have Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel, who do we usually rule by?
Hillel.
Beit Hillel. There are 6 instances when it's different, but this is not one of them. So we rule according to the 15th. Okay. Everybody with me, right? We gave the background, you know the Mishnah. This is a very famous Mishnah, very important. It's also the first Mishnah in the tractate of Rosh Hashanah. So it's boom, the first one. And it makes sense because Rosh Hashanah is all about the head of the year. So this makes sense that would be the first one. Okay. Moving on in our source sheet. Okay. The Mishnah taught on the 1st of Shvat is the new year for trees, according to Beit Shammai. And the Gemara asked, no, everybody remember that the Mishnah is terse. Everybody remember that? Look how terse, see how terse it is? I added the one. But the Gemara, wait, let me everybody look at me for 1 second, sorry. If the Mishnah is this big, the Gemara is like this big. There's tons of discussion about the Mishnah. When does it happen? What is it for? What were you talking about? Is it in this case? Is it in that case? So all the kinds of questions that you might ask. For example, wait a minute, why are you so confusing that you have a new year for trees and a new year for the fruit? Well, that's confusing. And why would you pick different dates? Like those are the kinds of questions you would ask on the Mishnah, right? One of the answers is what Estelle said. It's just a better time for planting the fruit trees, okay? We're going to get to that. But the Gemara expounds on it. They lived later than the Mishnah. They had all these discussions. They were codified in the Gemara. So we're now going to read the Gemara, but I'll summarize. What is the reason that the new year for trees was set on this date, meaning the 1st or the 15th? Rabbi Elazar said, that Rabbi Oshaya said, the reason is that since by that time, most of the year's rains have already fallen. Remember, this is in Israel. There's a wet season and a dry season. It's not like New York, where it can rain all year round or snow or hail or whatever, sleet, right? Even when we don't have precipitation of snow, but in the summer, we still get rain, right? But that's not true in Israel. Israel, there's 5 to 6 months when there's no rain at all. The reason is by that time, most of the year's rains have fallen and most of the season, meaning winter, is still yet to come. That's considered, February is actually considered, or Adar is considered winter. As it continues until the spring equinox, which usually occurs in Nisan, the Gemara asks, what is he saying? Meaning, what did you mean? The Gemara explains, this is what he said, even though most of the winter season is yet to come, nevertheless, since most of the year's rains have already fallen, it is considered the end of the previous year of rain, and anything that grows from then on is considered produce of the next year. Everybody get that? Like there is a logical explanation to it based on the way weather works in Eretz Yisrael. Okay? Great. Okay. Now I want to make, okay, so everybody gets, do we get Tu B'Shvat? We kind of get where it stems from. We understand why there's no Torah reading. Like it doesn't make sense that there's no specific Torah reading to read. It's not that high a level of holiness, but we want to mark it, and it makes sense to mark it with fruit. Now I just want to add a few sentences about Tu B'Shvat, because I do want to compare it to Tu B'Av. That was for me part of the interesting part. Maybe one year we'll do a Seder Tu B'Shvat online. That would be kind of cool. Should we do that next year? Anybody wants to do that? Other than me? Nobody raises your hand. We won't do it.
I
Okay, me and Felice are
it's
doing
nice.
it. And
I think it's not.
Who knows what you want to do next year? I don't know what I want to do
Karen says,
tomorrow.
no, just
Where do we go? Look at trees?
all right, Judith is a maybe. Great. We're getting more people on board. I think it could be cool to do a Seder Tu B'Shvat online, but
I think that
you'd have to bring grape juice and fruits and nuts. And I think
Yeah.
that's kind of cool. Okay, bracket that for next year. Somebody remind me next year. Or in like a month or two before. Maybe we'll do it online. I think that would be so much fun. Okay, moving on. I just want to say all the other things that you added about Tu B'Shvat, that it's kind of greening, that the Kabbalists actually, part of it could be because Tu B'Shvat had like so little associated with it. They wanted to mark it in some way. I'm not sure. They said, let's kind of latch on to Tu B'Shvat. It is a day of creation. It's a day of new birth. It's talking about the rains are going to sprout new seeds. So they added, and they actually added a Kabbalistic thought, which is that God has divine sparks in the world. I don't want to go into this, so please let's not have a discussion. This is not about that. That could be another time. But these divine sparks are let out or are felt on Tu B'Shvat. Anyway, they came up with this idea of Seder Tu B'Shvat, which is that you bring different kinds of fruits and nuts. Some of them have hard exterior and soft inside, like there are nuts like that. Some of them have soft outside and hard inside. Anyway, there's different, it's very beautiful. They created like levels of, to kind of tap into the different kinds of fruits and nuts and wines, and you move from like a light pink to a medium pink to a dark red. It's nice. I'm gonna think about doing that. And in modern day, it has become the in Israel especially, well, more before modern, more what Estelle said, that Kakal, Keren Kayemet L'Yisrael, because it was a good time to plant also, I guess, they said, it's not winter. I mean, most of the rains are finished. Hopefully it's not raining on Tu B'Shvat, I guess. And by the way, the shkediyah is the almond tree. It really does flower right now in Israel for 2 weeks. And all over Israel, you have these gorgeous white or pink blossoms. They're beautiful. And after the dead of winter, whatever winter is in Israel, when the branches of many trees are bare, all of a sudden you have this, Nachon, Tila. Nachon shkediyah porachat rega. You can unmute. I just sent you. Wait, we don't hear you. Can you unmute? Click to unmute if you can. See if you can unmute. I had to mute you because there was noise. See if somebody can help you unmute, Tila. So if you live in, Nurit is here to unmute. Cool. I'm sorry, it was just a little noisy before. Can't unmute? Okay, you'll try. So in Israel, the shkediyah, there we go. Tila, so thank you. Nachon shkediyah porachat.
Shemesh pazorachat.
V'shemesh pazorachat. Nachon. So it really does happen like that in Israel. Remember, this is an Israeli holiday.
Yeah, but this week it's raining all week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tila speaks to her sister in Israel every day, so she knows. Okay, so those are the pieces that got added. So people who are into being green, conserving, caring about the planet, nature, you could see why it makes sense to latch on to Tu B'Shvat. First of all, observant and non-observant Jews can all do things, right? Because if you're observant, then it's Pesach. Well, you're going to keep the laws of Pesach. You're not going to travel. You're not going to dig. You're not going to plant. You're not going to prune. You're not going to use technology. But Tu B'Shvat is a regular day. So it was adopted and what would be a good word for it? I guess adopted by people who care about the planet and nature and conservation as being kind of a green day. Okay? So we're now going to put Tu B'Shvat aside. Now, 6 months later, boom, is Tu B'Av. 6 months, literally at the other end, like heat of the summer, 6 days after Tisha B'Av, which is the hardest mourning period. So now we're going to learn a little bit about Tu B'Av, and I'm going to show you a surprising connection between Tu B'Shvat and Tu B'Av. So bear with me and come with me while I do that with you.
I
First
thought,
of all,
I thought if
Yeah,
you, for gematria, if you put 2 and 2 together, it equals chai.
2 and 2, but
Yes,
that's
2.
15 and 15.
No, I'm sorry. It doesn't. I'm sorry. 9. I thought it was 9 and 9, but it's not.
No,
9.
it's 15. Okay.
15,
No
sorry.
problem. Okay,
Sorry.
no problem, Judy. Thanks for the thought. Okay, now let's bracket Tu B'Shvat. We know what it is. Now let's move to Tu B'Av. The Mishnah cites a passage that, it's in Tractate of Tanit, which is about fast days. So Tisha B'Av is in there. Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel said there were no days as joyous for the Jewish people as the 15th of Av, Tu B'Av, and as Yom Kippur. As on those days, the daughters of Jerusalem would go out in white clothes, borrowed, by the way, so nobody would be shamed. Oh, they borrowed from each other. They did this not to embarrass one who did not have her own white dress, which was a very beautiful, like the rich and the poor didn't feel so left out. Why did they do that? I'm just going to tell you what they did. I don't know if this really happened. They went out in white dresses into the vineyards, and young men would choose. They would say, "Sheker achen behevel hayofi." Beauty is vain and false. Pick out the girl you would like to marry or go out with. I don't know if it actually happened, but that's where Tu B'Av became known as sort of the Jewish Valentine's Day, because it was associated with them meeting each other. They were allowed to meet each other and pick each other up or whatever it is. So we're not going to go into that. That may be. We're not going to go into that. So the Gemara continues and says, wait a minute. We understand, Tila. I'm going to put you on mute, okay? If you're going to talk, if that's okay. I'm just going to put you on mute. The Gemara asks, granted, Yom Kippur is a day of joy because why? Slicha mechila, that God forgives us. It's a day of repentance. So remember, we know that Yom Kippur is a holiday. It's a day of joy to be discussed at a different time. I know we're fasting. And moreover, it's the day when the second pair of luchot were given. Yom Kippur is the day that Moshe Rabbeinu came down from heaven on Har Sinai and brought the second set of luchot. So we know it's a day of joy because God forgave the sin of the golden calf. But what's the special joy of the 15th of Av? So is that a good question? Isn't that the question you might have if you were reading the Mishnah? It's in the Gemara, but it's a Mishnah, that there were no days as joyous for the Jewish people as the 15th of Av and as Yom Kippur. So we understand that Yom Kippur is joyous if God forgives us our sins and hopefully we're slated for the book of life. But what happened on the 15th of Av that was so special? So I'm not giving you the sources for each one. It's quoted in the Gemara. I just summarized it for you. These are the reasons. What?
If it was after Tisha B'Av, how can it from
6 days? 6
from
days.
a sad day to a happy day?
Well, it's 6 days, right? It's the 15th.
Yeah.
Tisha B'Av's the 9th, so it's the 15th. It's after the 3 weeks. Tisha B'Av finishes the 3 weeks, and this is 6 days later. Okay? This was the day that the ban was lifted and men and women from different tribes were allowed to remarry. Now,
Intermarry.
it's not, what did I write?
Intermarry. You said remarry.
You're right. It's intermarry. I don't know why I said remarry. Sorry. So remember that the 6 sisters, the 5 sisters, Benot Tzlafchad, the daughters of Tzlafchad, because their father was not alive and they had no brothers. And they asked God if they could inherit the lands that were going to belong to their family. Because what happened at that time, women got married, they went to their husband's home, and only the men actually owned land. Everybody remember that? Benot Tzlafchad, the daughters of Tzlafchad. So there was a problem with that because God said, yes, they do get it. But then what happens when they marry someone? Because if you own land and you marry someone from a different tribe, what's going to happen to the land? How do you live in both places? Because remember, in Israel, it was divided according to tribes. Everybody remember that? So what if you happen to meet somebody who's the love of your life, and you meet someone and you want to marry them, they're from a different tribe? There was actually a ban on that, which feels really hard when people would meet each other, young men, young women. So that was lifted on the 15th of Av, and there was great rejoicing. And then the tribal estates were allowed to merge. Like today, we don't have that anymore. By the way, you know about the Gush Dan buses? You know, the buses in Israel, the Dan buses? It's because Dan, that tribe, used to be where Tel Aviv is, just so you know. There's a reason for that name. Okay, that's reason number one for rejoicing. Everybody got that? What's reason number two? The 15th of Av was a day when the death of the male Jews in the wilderness ceased. So what happened with the sin of the Meraglim, the spies, the scouts? They went into Israel, and 10 of the 12 scouts said, it's a horrible land. We'll never conquer it. Don't trust what God and Moshe said. Don't go into Israel. And they spent another 39 years wandering in the desert because of that. And every year, 1/40th or 1/39th of the men between the ages of 20 and 60 died. Now, what happened was they actually all dug graves. I mean, this is what the Medrash says. And they would go to sleep, and a whole bunch of them would not wake up in the morning. But on the 40th year, they were spared. And what happened was, on the 9th of Av, this happened on the 9th of Av, Tisha B'Av. That's one of the reasons why it's a sad day. So they woke up in the morning and they said, oh, maybe we miscalculated. We don't have Google. Maybe really tonight is the 9th of Av. So they dug their graves and went in again. And then the 10th of Av, they woke up, and the 11th and 12th and 13th and 14th. But on the 15th of Av, when the moon was full, they said, it's not the 9th of Av anymore. It's the 15th of Av. So it must be that God has repented and spared the last section of men who were supposed to die out. That is the second reason for joy on the 15th of Av. The third reason, God did not speak directly according to the Medrash to Moshe the whole time from the sin of the Meraglim. Maybe God spoke directly to Moshe and Aaron or Bnei Israel, I don't know. But this is one of our teachings. And then God resumed speaking directly, Eli, it says, to me. So that's another reason. There was a massacre at Beitar during the Bar Kokhba rebellion that's connected with Hanukkah. And the Roman occupiers did not allow the Jews to come up to go to Beitar. It's on Mitzvah, I think. Am I right about that? I thought it was Mitzvah.
Yes, there was a poem written about that by Avram Lessin in Yiddish.
Yeah.
Which I can recite.
Oh, is it long?
Yes, but I won't do it. I did it when I was 12 years old.
Oh. So miraculously, when they were allowed to bury the bodies had not decomposed, even though they'd been out for a whole year. And so that was rejoicing. The same way, Lo Aleinu, the hostages come back. Even when they're not alive anymore, there still is a feeling of comfort and closure that they can bury the body. Obviously, not what we would want, but there still is better than, I mean, we know there are soldiers who were taken, tens and tens of years already, decades, that their bodies have been held by Hamas or others. The night, right, 15th of Av, remember in the summer, traditionally the ideal time for Torah study are lengthened after the summer solstice, permitting more Torah study. That's a small reason. But here's another reason that I didn't know about until I learned about it. They cut the wood for the main altar in the temple. They did it a whole year at a time, and it was finished on the 15th of Av. And this was a source of rejoicing. And to me, thinking of when we celebrate the birth of the fruit trees, we celebrate the trees on Tu B'Shvat. And 6 months later, we celebrate another purpose of the trees. Now, this might not have been fruit trees specifically, but they connect with each other because they have to do with trees. And as I said, I thought I had brought the book, which said, thank you to the trees. But I think a lot of us know the book called The Giving Tree. And there's a beautiful midrash, which I didn't bring, but there's a beautiful midrash, which is, why didn't I bring it? Maybe I did bring it. 1 second. Just a minute. I had it in one of my sources. There's a story that somebody slept under the shade of the tree and there was water nearby and he was so grateful. And when he woke up in the morning, he said, etzi or something like ilan ilan. Ilan is a fruit tree, I believe, as opposed to etz, which is just a general tree. Ilan ilan, what can I bless you with? I'm going to bless you that you have leaves, you have leaves. I'm going to bless you that you have sweet fruit, you have sweet fruit. I'm going to bless you that you blossom, all that you give shade, you give shade. What can I bless you with? So he blesses that the offshoots of that tree should be just like him. That the progeny, that the continuation of that tree should be just like him. And and that means a tree could die eventually. And at least at the time, and even today, there's firewood. People do use trees for firewood. It is another use for wood for a tree. And I found it really interesting that, and unexpected to me, that trees and wood figure prominently on Tu B'Shvat, but then surprisingly pop up in Tu B'Av. So the same question is asked as was asked on Tu B'Shvat. One understands the day of Anot. So it's the same question. This is in the Jerusalem Talmud. One understands that Yom Kippur is a happy day, but why the 15th of Av? So a different, or I don't know if it's a different answer, but it answers the question, why did they stop cutting by the 15th of Av? For this is a good time to cut wood, because any wood cut on this day does not develop worms, according to, as we have stated, any wood containing a worm is disqualified to be used on the Mizbeach, on the altar. So he's quoting a place in the Gemara itself. So the same way that we had a reason for celebrating Tu B'Shvat, because that's the best time, or we finished planting trees from before they've received most of the rain. Now it's a new season. So it seems like it is similar here, where there's a natural reason that the Tu B'Av, that the 15th of Av was chosen. So I just want to read this because remember, just as we said, we were overlaid with different customs for Tu B'Shvat. The 15th of Av marks the final day on the calendar year in which firewood could be cut for the temple sacrifice. And after the 15th, the sun's power, which had become to diminish, was no longer considered strong enough to dry out the wood sufficiently. During the rebuilding of the temple, a wood offering ceremony was introduced. We love to add ceremonies to things, to mark things. When Ezra and Nehemiah brought the people to Jerusalem, they found that more than just the temple had been destroyed, the land had been laid waste. In the process of destruction, almost all the trees had been uprooted, creating a great shortage of wood. Anyone who was able to donate wood did so, and the wood offering became a tradition and a great honor. This wood offering is associated with the story of unique heroism of the Jewish people and their desire to serve God. Once during the times of the Second Temple, that was, remember, Ezra and Nehemiah were between the First and the Second Temple, the people were prohibited from bringing wood to the temple by the occupying power. Rather than despair, the Israelites made ladders from the wood. When asked at the roadblocks where they were going and for what purpose they needed ladders, the Israelites replied they were taking the ladders to retrieve fledglings from their dovecotes. Is that how you pronounce it? After passing the roadblocks, the ladders were disassembled and brought to the temple. That's a Yiddish cup. That's a creative way to bring. I loved it. I don't even know. I just found it when I was searching. I thought that was such a beautiful story that I didn't know about. This is a source that we don't really have time to talk about it, but it's very well known. Ki Adam Eitz HaSadeh is an Israeli song about it, that our tree, you're not allowed to cut down fruit trees, that they're very important. That harkens back actually to Tu B'Shvat, but we don't have time to go into it. So I just wanted to read you this beautiful poem that I discovered. It was actually written for Tu B'Shvat by Jessica Jacobs. Let me speak to you as the tree I climbed as a child, the one in the far corner of my grandmother's yard, whose bark was a tapestry of rough diamonds. Your first branch was low enough to leap to, textured enough to hold me. And each branch after placed as though to keep me climbing. I paused only to press my ear to your trunk and hear it, the heartbeat of water moving towards the leaves, the conversation between roots and sky. Climbing until my hair twined your needle's spines, until, anointed by your green, you took root within me. So I speak from the part of me who grows with you, who will always live in your branches. And in the boughs, so many there with me, a vantage we could not have reached on our own, a vision otherwise beyond us, all of us in that overstory, unalone.
Beautiful. Can you send that somehow, or can we find it
Putting
if
in
we
the
Google
chat,
it? Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm putting in the
Oh.
chat a link to this source sheet,
Okay.
which it can be read by anybody, and it has that as well. And then you could Google it and find it, because that's how I found it. I went through
Jessica Jacobs.
Jessica. Well, you'll see it's in there, but yes, it's
Okay.
and then you can just Google it and you'll find it.
And so what's done quickly at the Seder? A Tu B'Shvat Seder.
I said there's different, like you go through the seasons, basically, go through the seasons.
Uh-huh.
But it's,
Uh-huh.
and you eat different fruit and you say different passages. I think I'm going to consider doing it.
Okay.
But I don't quite get it from Tisha B'Av.
Yeah.
Hello? Oh, Tisha B'Av is the 9th of Av. And that's when everything, all the, like that's when the temples were destroyed and everything else was terrible. And then a week later, suddenly everything is sweetness and light.
That's exaggerating to say that.
Well,
say everything was sweetness and light.
I didn't mean
after, right. I think that after the mourning period of the 3 weeks, as usually happens in our lives and in the Jewish year, it swings, the pendulum starts swinging. They still had to take care of the wood. It still was the day that we celebrated that people stopped dying in the desert. We still celebrate the fact that that was the day that all those things happened. I gave a different class once on how the connection is between all these pieces. And it's a connection kind of brotherly love and sisterly love, which combats what happened during the 3 weeks when the Jews did not get along with each other. And that caused a lot of strife. So I mean, you could stay in the 3 weeks the whole year, but that's not the way Judaism works. The pendulum swings up and swings down. So a sweetness and light would be a little exaggerating, but something to rejoice and something to come out of it. I mean, even in mourning, there's halacha. You're not allowed to extend the mourning practices more than the halacha gives. Because in Judaism, we believe you give time for sad things, but you also give time for upbeat things. So it's not the next day, it's not the 10th of Av, but it's the 15th, and then it swings into Elul, which is the month before Tishrei, and not an unhappy month. It's the month when we say God comes down in the fields and is with us. So, every month has its own, it doesn't negate that there were upbeat things that happened on that day.
No, it's the first time I'm hearing of Tu B'Av, and I think it's
Look it up. Look it up.
I'm with you.
All right.
No,
all right, my friends. Thanks for listening. And I will see you hopefully next week. We will take a dive into
Thanks so much.
Everybody.
So much.
Happy Tu B'Shvat.
Happy Tu B'Shvat. Happy Tu B'Shvat. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome. Thank you.